Hello, friends. Are you here yet? I think you are. There we go. Let's bring in our Facebook friends. I have you pointed down so you can just see a little bit of my work surfaces here. Hello, Facebook friends. Again, apologies. You're operating on ambient sound. My apologies. If you want to watch a better stream, go to my YouTube channel, YouTube Dan the Art Man, and you can hear me a little bit better. Hello, Matt. Is it afternoon already where you are? It's still morning. I still have 40 minutes of morning, 45 minutes of morning here. This is a butcher tray. I've poured out a pile of transparent medium, matte medium there. Here's a bunch of the paints I'm using. Some oddball paints that I'll use later. Some crazy different kinds of mediums that can be mixed with acrylics, gritty stuff, sparkly stuff. A bunch of tools, all kinds of crazy tools for scratching and making marks. This is a stay wet palette. If you're not familiar with this, if you paint in acrylics, you really should invest. Masterson Stay Wet palette. If you paint in acrylics, you want one of these. There's a piece of paper here that is water permeable. Then a wet rag, a sponge comes with it, but that wears off after a while. So this is mostly a conglomeration of opaque colors, big pile of white. This is my normal acrylic palette, transparent. Some watercolor sticks, some crayons, and this is mostly a transparent over here, mostly opaque over here. All right, let me bring you in closer then and point you at the painting and get started. So this is painting number 11, and I'm for losing count. I think this is phase number 5, although I'm not sure. But I do know that it's Daily Art Adventure number 966. Whoops, phase 5 on 20 abstracts. Dan the Tech Man. That's sarcasm. Somebody commented yesterday it wouldn't be a Dan Nelson broadcast if there weren't technical problems. All right, that's pretty low down there. But I don't blame you for feeling that way at all. All right, 5 friends. Hello, snoozer. Good morning. Good morning indeed. And for those of you who maybe are just joining us, I hope, there we go, it was glued down. I hope to auction these off later in the week. You can start placing bids, and with each painting that you buy, you actually get 2 paintings. One on the front, one on the back. Does that make sense? So you can buy either one. You might say, I don't care for the one on the front, but I want the one on the back. That's okay. So what would you do with two paintings? Well, if you're a crazy decorator kind of person, you turn them around at different times of the year. That's, who knows. And I already picked up some large brushes. Here they are. I mean, not large, but medium. And this layer is, I am doing either white or light, and I ended up yesterday as the further so I did the first 10, layer 4 or 5, whatever, I'll call it layer 5. I already did the first 10, and so I'm starting out, I'm going to go 11 through 20. And I'm doing light stuff, light and opaque, tending toward hard-ish edges. Although I hope I'm not overdoing that. Very much responding to what's already on the canvas. I keep calling it a canvas just out of habit. It's actually a panel. I'm doing these 20 paintings on gator board. One of the benefits of gator board is that it's real lightweight, so it's a little bit easier to ship, a little bit easier to send off in the mail, especially if I send any to Europe or Asia, which has happened on occasion. So they're very lightweight. That helps a little bit. But it's also, that's what allows me to paint on the front and the back, of course. Gator board is, if you're familiar with foam core, gator board is like industrial strength foam core. Very strong, very archivally stable. And it makes a good, interesting surface for painting on. It starts out a little bit slick. Of course, by the time I get to this point, all the slickness is gone. It's quite a rough surface. Let me take just a second to show you some of the paintings I did yesterday. I pulled up just 3 in a row here, just to give you an idea kind of where I'm going in this layer. So this is painting number 5. That glare is so bad. Is that any better? That actually is a little bit better. So that's not a bad abstract painting, in my opinion. What makes it a good abstract painting? It's how you handle the elements of design. Line, shape, color, design, value, texture. How you handle those. And you handle them by employing the principles of design. Tension and release, balance, ratios, and so forth. So this is very green, but a few very important shocks of red, focal point right there, and so on and so on and so on and so forth. Now I have several more layers to go on this, and but I wanted to show you some. As I went along yesterday, I felt like I kind of hit my stride and said, these are good. And I started out thinking I might just do opaque white. I ended up doing, as you can see, every color. I found I was doing better painting color. That's painting number 6. Again, that's a good start. That's a good abstract painting. It will get better. I'm going to do one more layer of acrylics and then switch to oil. So all of these will be oil paintings by the time I'm finished. And there's painting number 7. Again, interplay, relationship between large and small, light and dark, spatial relationships, color relationships, texture. All of those abstract elements, that's what makes a good abstract painting, is it's all principle, no picture. Get it? And those of you who know me, there may be somebody watching that doesn't know, my normal painting is highly representational. Somebody mentioned on my comment yesterday that they miss my plein air painting, and me too. At the end of this week, if I don't have any commissions, paintings that people are paying me for, I'm going back out on the street The reason I haven't been on the street much with coronavirus season is because there's almost nobody else on the street. So that's why I haven't been there a lot. But I'm going to go ahead and take the plunge and say to heck with that. I'm going to paint downtown even if nobody's there. If I got the whole street to myself, then so be it. I'll take the whole street to myself. I might even start, a big warning here. I'm not making any huge promises, but I might even start playing music, performing music, which is what I have done much of in years past, but haven't done much of it in recent years. Actually, the rest of the story, until 11 weeks ago, my wife and I've been playing my instruments, which means I'm surrounded. When I play my instruments, I have literally 50 instruments around me, but that's misleading. I have 50 instruments because I have 18 harmonicas and about 15 or 20 Celtic whistles, penny whistles, trumpet, flugelhorn, 4 guitars, ukulele, and a whole battleship full of electronic things. So that's when somebody saying, well, what do you play? Trumpet is my main instrument. Little flute, saxophone, harmonica, a lot of guitar, and all of this in a very, I don't play songs, I play sounds. I just don't do songs. My brain doesn't work that way. Yeah, she's gone with her friends to Roseville.
She told me she's going to come after breakfast.
Oh,
And
she's not here. I know she's not here after breakfast. I'm sorry, Abby. Oh, did you think she was going to be here? Oh, we got an unhappy little 3-year-old there. He thought his grandmother was going to be here after breakfast, and she's gone. Aww. I'm mixing up some purple now. Let me try to let you inside my head a little bit then while I'm doing this layer number 5. At this point, the name of the game is very much, I am responding mostly to what's already on the canvas. Again, you forgive me for calling it a canvas. It's just easier for people to know what I'm talking about. I'm responding to what's already there. And there was just a faintest hint of purple in these lines right here. And so as you can see, I just decided to take that hint and boom, pump it up a whole bunch. This is obviously a yellow-brown painting with a secondary color of purple. And by the way, I'll tell you the next layer, which I may not broadcast, hard to say, the next layer that I'm going to do on these paintings is going to be a little bit more detail-ish, but that makes sense. Every layer, essentially, except for a glazing layer, every layer I'm making smaller marks, by and large, generally speaking. With each layer, I'm making smaller marks. Does that make sense? So the next layer on all 20, which I think will be phase 5 or 6, I mean, I'll be doing tertiary color, third color, and a little bit of fourth color. So let me do that right now. Let me do some. This is what I'm going to do a lot of in the next layer, but let me do a little bit of it for you right now. Yellow-brown, we could call that one color or two. Let's call that one color, yellow-brown. Secondary, purple. Tertiary, or third degree here is going to be red. Now, what made me think of doing red there? Easy. There was already a hint of red reddish brown, if you will, already there. Now I do have the freedom to introduce a completely new color. Yes, of course, I can do that. But here's the way this works. Primary color covers most of the canvas. Secondary color covers at the moment, purple is my secondary color. And then third is this dark maroon red. So you'll notice there's some red, quite a bit more purple, and a whole lot more yellow. So that's just some of the way that I think. And sometimes, I'm going to put these brushes down, I'll be using those more for red. And sometimes, let me go ahead and do this. And what I'm showing you right now is actually what I plan to do more of on the next phase. But I'm going to go ahead and show you some right now, just for fun. There are throughout this painting, from leftover from vestiges, even, if you will, of some of the underpaintings. It's a little bit unusual for me to go is it 5 deep? Yellow, purple, 4 deep, red and green. Little bit unusual to go that deep, but because there's already green here. Part of the magic of this is these two, for instance, this is way back, maybe the very first or second layer of the painting, ended up with some green, and it's kind of dirty, and you can tell it's underneath, it's got other stuff on top of it, but it's still there. So when I come in here with comparatively a fairly clean green, and it's clearly on top of everything, these two greens talk to each other, create an interesting dialogue, interesting tension between the green, the dirty green that's underneath a lot of other stuff, and the fresh new green that's on top. That's all of this language that I'm using right now goes under the broad rubric of principles of design. Right, let me pause just a minute and see if I'm done. I don't think I am. So hang on, back to some larger brushes. I want to do a little bit more clean-ish yellow, and I've run out of room on this Stay Wet palette over here, so let's mix up some paint over on my butcher tray. If you're not familiar with they actually sell these at my local art store, Jerry's Artorama. Let me show it again to you. It's plain old-fashioned baked enamel butcher tray. Makes a very convenient mixing surface. Once again, the whole magic, if you will, of good abstract painting is you're dealing only with the principles of design. Principles, no picture. All principle, no picture. So the better you understand, and I don't mean understand sort of like book learning, you have to have an innate, or at a gut level, you have to have some understanding of, if you want to do good abstract paintings, the better, more innate understanding that you have of the principles of design, elements and principles, the better abstract painting you can create. And for that reason, there's a lot of abstract painting out there that I don't like. I'm not drawn to it very much because it doesn't look like the artist really knew anything. Things like what? I'm repeating myself here. Things like what? Well, focal point is one well-known concept in all painting. And focal point would be a one good principle, it's not an element of design, right? The elements of design are line, shape, design, value, color, texture. And I'm using the word design twice in meaning two slightly different things when I say that, right? Line, shape, color, composition, value, texture. I'm not sure I got all of them in there that time, but it's this list over here again. All right. Value. Some people say space and form are elements of design. I disagree. I combine those two into one called composition or design, which means the way the two-dimensional space is divided up with large shapes. Texture, color, shape, and line. All right. You see lots of line on my abstract paintings, don't you? You see lots of line. You see lots of texture. You see lots of color. You see lots of shape. You see, again, lots of thoughtful composition, like focal point would be under the general. Focal point is busyness, or energy is my more preferred word for busyness. High energy right here. Do you see? Contrast, color, sharp edges, and a line work. Now, a little while ago, I picked up some red pencils. Yeah, there we go. You can hear the texture, can't you? So I actually just increased the energy here noticeably by adding more busy lines and color. Whew. When you do, that's good enough. Let me go to number 12. When you do abstract paintings, you're thinking out of a very different side of your brain than when you're painting a representational painting, because it's all principle, no picture. All right, now changing color palette dramatically. Let me see who else is saying hi. You're in Italy, Snoozer. How about that? I'm honored to have you here. Thank you. Uncle, I did not do a Gatorboard prep video. That would have been good. Hello, Janie. Good to see you. How fun. Good, thank you. I look forward to playing my guitar for you. I failed to show you the back. Here's the cosmic side of number 12. All right. And it's gotten messed up a little bit. I will clean that up before I do a final gloss varnish over the whole thing. Why do I prefer gloss varnish? Because it pops the color. And maybe you can tell I'm big on color. All right. So here we are. What color is this painting? Purple, clearly. If you were to say another color, you would say purple and blue. Purple and gray. Now, purple and blue. Bluish and purple. But I'm going to call it one color. So my primary color is purple. Let me think for a minute. I'm going to come in here with some very light white paint to reinforce what's already there. I'm sure that I'm going to use some blue to reinforce the secondary color here. In fact, I can do that right now with some blue pencils. I don't need to tell you that two hands are better than one. You can clearly see why two hands are better than one. I'm going to start with the very pale lavender purple paint. Ooh, and doing some impasto. I don't like that word because I never know whether to say impasto or impasto. And Snoozer is here from Italy, so I'm going to say impasto. Am I right, Snoozer? It shouldn't, right? I think Americans would say impasto, but I don't like. I like going back to the old country, and I believe in Italy it would be impasto. Anyway, so I don't like the word, but I do like the practice of impasto. There's already a fair amount of thick paint on all of these panels. And right now I'm just doing a fair amount more thick paint. So one of the crazy things I like to tell my students is, if you want to do really good representational paintings, in my humble opinion, you really should learn how to do good abstract paintings. Because, of course, all paintings are actually abstract, no matter how realistic they are. And the better you understand the principles, the elements and principles of design, the better your representational paintings will be. And man, I'm on this journey with you guys. I am not I'm very much a learner, still very much a learner, trying to learn. And when I see a painting that's clearly an artist who's clearly better than I am, man, it puts fire in my bones. I want to go, man, what do they know? What do they know? What do they know that I don't know yet? And I believe it has something to do, essentially, with the principles of design, elements of design. They know something about the abstract rules. Now, sometimes you could say, well, no, they're just drawing better than you are. That is possible. That is there might be a better drawer than I am, and that forces me on another learning trajectory, right? For instance, when I look at the drawings of Andrew, now I just drew a blank. Forgive me. I'll come back to the guy who does the anatomy stuff. Silly. This happens a lot when I'm painting, I find. It's either because I'm losing my mind, which I hope not, or it's because I've got two competing sides of my brain working, the painting side and the talking side. Andrew Loomis, there we go. Andrew Loomis, when I look at a drawing, speaking of, somebody being better than me, not only because of principles of design, but they're simply a better drawer than I am. And my mind, for instance, goes to, I'm a pretty good drawer. I'm not being humble on you. So when I look at Andrew Loomis, I go, I feel like the proverbial fourth grader. It's like, doggone, I thought I was a good drawer till I look at his stuff. I've been working on my anatomy, practicing anatomy pretty intensely over the last 6 months because I was going to teach an anatomy course here in Raleigh, a 13-week, one class a week for 13 weeks. But it got, like everything else, it got canned by COVID. So I'm not doing it, but I still have enjoyed I'll continue. I'll continue my quest to become a better figure drawer. Okay, so there's a bunch of purple. The same thing is happening here that I talked about in the last painting. I have if you'll let me call it, the dirty under purple color. It's glazes, it's layers, it's very busy at a fine, at close inspection, because the purple that was here is made up of layers of stuff, so it has a lot of texture in it. I have just put on top of that a much cleaner purple and lighter, brighter. And those two purples, if you will, talk to each other in have an interesting dialogue going on. And I don't have yet a couple brushes dedicated to blue. So let's get that starting. We have some fussy, I don't know if you can hear them, we have some fussy grandchildren going on. They know the only rule when I'm broadcasting is they can make noise, but they're not supposed to fuss. So Evidently, they forgot about me for a little while. My wife and I have had 4 grandchildren and their parents living with us for over 3 years, and we have absolutely loved it. You love all of your kids to the same degree, but you don't love them all the same because they're not all the same kid. So we have absolutely loved living with our daughter, her husband, and their 4 kids for over 3 years now. Most grandparents, when I tell them that their eyebrows go way up, say, "What? How can you even do that?" I don't know. The answer is you have to pick the right grandchildren. All right, so I'm doing now, again, more of the same. I'm doing blue, which was already the secondary color in this painting. And I want to come up with a better way to describe. I've been using the word dialogue, or I've been using the concept of the dirty blue that's already there and was created by layers of stuff. It interacts visually with the cleaner blue that I'm putting on top. Let me make a general statement. Our eyes, I believe, quite easily, everybody does this. You don't have to be an artist to do this. The human eye discerns quite accurately and quite quickly what paint is on top of what, right? We can discern. This is not like take some kind of special gift, or you have to be an artist or a genius or anything. No, anybody could walk up to this painting and say, "Oh yeah, this blue stuff is on top. This white stuff is on top." It's real obvious, right? So that's one of the elements that's at work here. And then because we can see that, because we can discern that, for instance, these 2 light blue marks. I just did light blue on top of dark blue. By the way, one of the, perhaps a principle of design, or I'm going to come up with a different term. It's the practice of design. Practice is we like to see light paint on top of dark paint. We, human beings, do not get a kick up generally out of seeing dark paint on top of light paint. And somebody might say, "Oh yeah, says who?" Says decades of paying attention to painters who are better than me, right? This is how you become better. You learn, you find somebody better and say, "Doggone it, what do they know that I don't know?" So there you go. That's one thing I might know that you don't yet, which is, I'll say it again, the human eye gets a kick out of seeing light paint on top of dark paint. Not so much the other way around, right? So there's a little wiggle that's going on in our vision in the visual part of our brain that sees dark paint with light paint on top of it. That's all. I'm just going to let it go at that for now. I could go on, but that's enough. Is there anything else I want to do? Sure, I started this on the last painting. So really, I'm getting ahead of myself here a little bit. What would be the tertiary, the 3rd degree? Primary purple painting, secondary blue, third, there's a hint of green right here, and here, and here. There's a hint of red here. So do I want this tertiary color, of which there will be considerably less than the blue? Do I want it green or red? Some of you are screaming at me as if it's obvious. Like, it's obvious. If you said red, then I'm going to agree with you. Actually, I think red. But that was actually not as logical as it may have appeared. There are more undertones, undercurrents, sub colors of red, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's the one I want to go with. So once again, at the moment, that there was already a hint of red up there. So adding a little bit more causes the two reds, the dirty underneath, hidden way deep inside the painting red, and then this much brighter and cleaner, and that's enough. That is enough. It's easy to overdo this tertiary color thing. Bear with me just a minute. I just got paint on my nice new, I just refinished my cart over here to the left. All right, done with number 12. I hope I'm being instructive and helpful to some of you. Not just to those of you who are abstract painters. As I said, learning how to do abstracts helps you learn how to do representational stuff. So, whoops, camera did get moved a little. Hang on just a second. Which one is that? Let's try it. Thank you for letting me know. Okay, there we go. There we go. All right, thank you for correcting me there. All right, I like this one. Much darker than most of them. Where am I going to start? I'm going to start up here. The most predictable, perhaps, place to start is with the lightest stuff. Now, I'm going to be doing oil on top of all these paintings. I'm probably going to do one more layer of white. Wrong. One more layer of acrylic, and then move to oil. My last layer of acrylic, I'm going to do two things. One, I'm going to pay exclusive attention to my tertiary and quaternary colors. The third level down of color and the fourth level down. And I will do some of each of that. A little bit tertiary color, a little bit fourth level down color, which means it'll be very little fourth level. And the other thing I'm going to do in acrylics before I move to oils is some special effects in acrylics. For instance, just as an example, I have here, this is like craft store, arts and crafty kind of stuff. This is, it's called gallery glass. It's acrylic paint that is very transparent and it's dimensional. So to do that, maybe lay the canvas or the panel straight, flat down on its back and drizzle. I did this on the other side, on almost all of these paintings. I did some of this dimensional stuff on the back. And the only reason for that is just it creates an interesting contrast. I mean, the whole purpose of abstract painting is to be interesting to look at, right? At least in the real art world. Now, in the university art world, the primary purpose of abstract painting is for the artist to, ready? Express themselves, right? I am vehemently against that school of thought. I'm not against it because I'm ignorant of it. Quite the contrary, I'm quite well informed about that philosophy of art and reject it vociferously and wholeheartedly. Whoops. I'm doing pale green, and why am I doing pale green? Because it's, as Sir Edmund Hillary said, he came down from the tallest mountain in the world. Why did you climb it? Why? Because it was there, right? Remember that famous quote? Why did you climb Mount Everest? Because it was there. Great. Smart aleck British humor. Anyway, Sorry, that's a bad comparison. Climbing Mount Everest compared to putting green. My answer was, why am I putting green there? Why am I putting green here? Because it was there. All the rest of that analogy or comparison will only be a comparison of absurdity. Do a little bit of blending here. The essence of good painting is making interesting marks. Coming to know what marks look good and what marks don't look good is a lifelong journey. Again, if I look, say, for instance, at do I have the book right here? If I look at a Richard Schmid, yeah, here we go. Some of you, I talk about this guy all the time. I actually have his book right here. If I look at a Richard Schmid painting, let's take just a little show and tell. I don't do this very often. So here's a Richard Schmid, the Richard Schmid book. Brilliant painter, so-so writer, but fantastic painter. I mean, let me find a classic Richard Schmid painting. These are okay. There we go. He does everything. Is that a good painting? In my opinion, heck yeah. Let me find another classic. What I feel like is one of his landscapes. Still lifes, landscapes, portraits. He runs the gamut. Figurative. Okay, is that a good painting? Yeah. Is he better than me? Darn it, yeah. Why is he better? Here we go. Because his marks are better than mine. Do I hate to admit that? Well, kinda, but I'm foolish if I pretend that, I'm as good as him, because what am I doing then? I'm missing the opportunity for deep introspection, the right kind of introspection. I'm missing the opportunity to get better. So I'm much wiser to say, dang, that's good. And then ask myself, why? What's good? And his classic, my answer to that is because his marks are better than mine. That's all. Is he a good drawer? Yeah. But in his case, I'd say the real difference between, say, Richard Schmid and myself is his marks are better than mine. And that puts, and I hope you have the same attitude. When you find somebody that's better than you, I'm not begging you to make that me. I ain't all that. I am what I am. Like Popeye, I am what I am. I am what I am. But I hope it puts, all right, I'm going to primary color, back to light blue. Somebody sent me some samples of their abstract painting just the other day in the email, and I haven't had a chance to answer them yet. They want to, and I will give them feedback. But I just opened the files briefly and glanced at their paintings briefly, and my initial reaction was, what do I want to say, kind of predictable for me. It's kind of like, their marks are not very nice. Avoiding using the word beautiful, because that gets us into philosophical wrangling. Let's just use interesting. Their marks are not very interesting. Their marks had a little bit of a, and so what is an interesting mark? Good question. I will answer it right now only in one respect. Good marks are the result, the byproduct of good movements, okay? So if you want to be a good painter, you shouldn't just be staring at the marks that your brushes leave behind, so to speak, on your canvas. You don't just look at the mark. If you want to be a good painter, you look, I'm being a little bit, well, I'll just finish. You look at the way your hand is holding the brush. You look at the way your arm is moving while you're making the mark. Because good marks are the byproduct. They are the history of the movement that your arm or hand or whatever made, all right? In fact, Marlene made a good comment yesterday. She said, well, when I go really fast, it looks like I'm angry. Because yesterday I was making big, fast marks. Okay, let me clarify, because Marlene makes a good point. Okay, you, whoever you are, you cannot make marks like me. Oh, that's sad. I cannot make marks like Richard Schmid. Oh, say it ain't so. Well, it is so. That's the quote-unquote bad news. It's not really bad news at all. Because the reverse is also true. Richard Schmid cannot. It is impossible for him, Richard Schmid, to make marks like Dan Nelson. It's impossible for me to make marks like you. That's part of the beauty of artwork. Honestly, that's part of the beauty. We are as unique as our fingerprints. So what works for me won't necessarily work for you, and vice versa. But even though you can't be me, it is your job. If you want to be a good artist, it's your job to be the best you could be, which means you find out how to make marks that work. By the way, here's a funny example. There's a dark opaque paint there, and it's not pleasant. So I just wiped it off. All right, so that's blue and then purplish blue. Sure, I'm going to go ahead and do some red. There's already a generous tertiary red, third degree color. I don't know if you can see it. It's very dark red, but it's definitely red. Kind of a cranberry, raspberry, dark, almost maroon, dark red. All right, and I think that's good enough. Wait, I've been doing a little bit of pencil. Nah, doesn't need it this time. Right, that's number 13. Did I show you the back of 13? Oh, I didn't. Sorry, I just got my fingers in wet paint. Anyway, there's number 13. Again, it's got some damage here that I'll clean up. I kind of like that one. Let's see if I can do this without putting my fingers in wet paint. There we go. Okay, bear with me just a second while I walk across the room and set this up to dry. Number 14. Happiness is picking up the next painting and saying, ooh, I like that. So I feel pretty much, whoops, there we go, sorry. How long have you guys been looking down there? Since Richard Schmid's book, right? Sorry about that. Janie. I wish you could make marks as nice as Dan Nelson. Sorry, you guys, I had you focused small for a long time there. My bad mistake. Anyway, here's number 14. Let me show you the back of it. Much warmer outer space. Primarily orange, secondary purple, tertiary everything else. There's every color star in there. Star, quote unquote. We can't help but seeing those as stars, I know. All right, let's look at this. Let me talk about pleasant marks. Janie mentioned that again. Janie, you can make marks. Good marks, that is to say. They're often, not, this won't apply to all of you, but many early journey painters, here's a trap that I would say 70% of early journey painters, their marks are weak for this one reason. They are too thin, wispy, amorphous, that is lacking body. And it just helps that while I'm saying this, I'm actually applying quite a bit of body to this painting. Hang on just a second, I need to get a tray. Yeah, so that's something to keep in mind. A lot of beginner, I try not to use that term generally, a lot of beginner artists, painters, are afraid to apply paint. Now, a little bit of that, I mentioned this yesterday, a little bit of that sometimes is they don't want to waste money. And let me assure you, you cannot both do good paintings and save good money in the same impulse. You have to do one or the other. You can't save money and do good paintings. Because if you have a little nagging voice inside your head while you're painting, it says, ooh, ooh, don't waste paint, gotta save money, then you're not doing good painting. Okay, so it just can't be done in my opinion. I make a lot of generalization statements that they're not absolutistic, right? It's conceivable that sometimes somebody did a good painting who was afraid of wasting paint. But generally speaking, cannot be done. Anyway, so that's part of the reason I think that some beginner painters paint so poorly, is they're afraid to put the paint down. Corollary to that, I do a lot of opaque painting, like I'm doing right now. I do a lot of transparent painting, right? A lot of transparent glazes. In fact, that would, in my representational work, that would be the primary descriptor of a Dan Nelson painting. Ooh, yeah, he's that guy that does layers and layers of transparent color. Okay, if you want a pigeonhole to put me in, that would be it. If you just have a hankering to put me in a pigeonhole. I also do, so I mentioned opaque and I mentioned transparent. I also do a lot of translucent, and I will say that the trickiest of those is the translucent layer. I'm trying to help somebody out there understand what is a good mark. What doth a good mark make? Again, it's a lifetime study. So it's not anything simple. Bear with me, mixing up some orangish brownish orange over here. Again, I'm responding to what's already here on the painting. Okay. Generally speaking, the human eye does not get a kick out of wispy, ethereal, translucent brushstrokes. We like transparent, we like opaque. Near the twain shall meet. Actually, they do meet. That's the whole point in translucent. Translucent is the most difficult because there's some translucents that look good and some do not. I'm getting myself way down and bogged down in too much of a corner. So I'm going to stop there and just paint, stop that topic. But I'm trying to help. I talk about interesting marks all the time. Oh, let me describe it this way. I've talked about this many times over the years, but this is a corollary to the concept that good marks are the product. You could even say the byproduct, the consequence. Good marks are the byproduct of good movements. And if you are one of those people, like most early journey painters, if you're one of those people who is still painting with small brushes like this, this is a recipe. I'm going to be real blunt. This is a recipe for butt ugly movement, ugly marks, ugly movements and ugly marks, okay? This is quite a bit better, and you see a lot of good painters doing this, but they'd be even better if they did this, okay? The reason some of you guys are doing this, now, okay, hang on, caveat. If you go back and watch me do one of my wedding paintings where the head is about this big, you'll say, well, you do that. Okay, yeah. There's a time and a place for everything, right? You will see me doing, I call this tongue painting. All right, I do that. It's because I'm doing for want of a better term, I'm doing a photorealistic portrait of a head this big. So of course I'm going like this. All right, the caveat. But generally, when I'm doing good painting, when I'm not painting absurdly small portraits, like my wedding paintings, feel free to go look at them, by the way, weddingpainter.com. Weddingpainter.com. You'll see what I'm talking about. When I'm doing good painting, which means I'm referring here, I don't mean a good painting, I'm saying when I'm doing the act of painting well, I'm holding the brush, side saddle, and you know what? I think I'm debating. See this thick, fresh stuff here? So I think I'm going to leave that up there. It's kind of surprising myself here. Sometimes I'm surprised by my choice, by my decisions, but I think that's what I'm going to do here. All right. Again, give me a minute to mix up a fresh color over here. I want a dirty mid-tone green. Dirty, that means quite a bit of red, complement in it. Dull. And I've just got a whole swamp full of dirty colors over here. Okay, why am I mixing up swamp green? The reason is, I hope it's obvious, because I've already got a swamp green color here on the canvas. So I'm going to, again, make these two greens play with each other, talk to each other, interact with each other. Our eye gets a kick out of subtlety. That's a good way to do. That's another principle of design. Our eyes really do get a kick out of almost, sometimes I use this term, of being fooled. Our eyes get a kick. They enjoy the experience of being momentarily fooled. And that, like here, how am I fooling the eye? I'm fooling it because I'm putting down a green color that is just close enough to this green color, but it's our intuition clearly sees that this green is on top of everything. But they're close enough that our eye goes, buddly, 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 buddly. What's on top of what? And it's that momentary confusion that I just gave sound effects to, buddly, buddly, buddly. It's that momentary confusion that we experience as aesthetic pleasure, I believe. Okay, this is, by the way, a good example of bad painting, in my opinion. There's a translucence there that I made by rubbing with my finger, first with the brush, then with the finger, but it wasn't a pleasant translucent, so I wiped it off, smeared it around till it did look good. That's that wispy, thin paint that a lot of beginners, early journey painters specialize in. That generally speaking is not a good look. Another way to put that, I've taught several painting classes on nothing but brush strokes and energy. And in those classes, I am trying to get more than, in summary, trying to get people to stop doing brushy, brushy, brushy. Brushy, brushy. That is bad painting. It comes about when people don't know what they're doing, so they say, well, maybe if I just brushy, 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 something will happen. And it doesn't. It's a bad look. It's a really bad look. Perhaps you'll notice that about 95% of my brush strokes are single stroke, like that. I put it down and I'm done. A beginner will put it down and then move it around and brushy, 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 because they don't know what they're doing. That's right. It's okay to be a beginner, but perhaps that's why you're watching me, so you can stop. You can progress some. No brushy, brushy, brushy. I joke, and sometimes in those classes, I can hear, and it's true, it's funny, but I can hear bad painting with my back turned. I can hear a student painting poorly. Why? Because it sounds like this. Now there's a place for scumbling, so, give me a break, but generally speaking, scumbling is, you use that scumbling stroke only when you are intentionally obfuscating texture. And I use that big, obscure, fancy word on purpose because I want most of my students to stare at me dumbfounded and say, I don't even know what the word obfuscating means. And then I go, good, that's how often you should use that brushy, brushy stroke. In other words, as often as you use the word obfuscating. Obfuscate means diminish, push down, cover over, confuse. All right, I like this painting. Now, should I do any? I already have. So, by the way, it's okay for a painting to be color-wise all over the map. I have here, it's primarily a yellow-orange painting. That's right, I'll call that one color. Yellow-orange, number 2 is green, number 3 is purple, number 4 is red. Yeah, tell you what, I do want to do a little tiny bit of purple. So that was already that was the third color, wasn't it? Now, and again, forgive me, I know you just can't describe artwork, can you? Everything you see me doing, like especially this trick, if you will, of doing a light, bright color on top of the same color family. Like this is a dark purple line, I just put light. That's just one out of hundreds or thousands of things I could do in a painting, right? And I'm also aware of the fact that it's kind of typical of Dan Nelson, okay? I know that. This is a dead ringer for a Dan Nelson abstract painting. And almost nothing I can do about that. I've tried with some in years past to do abstract paintings that didn't look like me. And you know what? They were the worst abstract paintings I've ever done. I'm not even going to show them to you. I tried to not be me. Like I tried to be Jonas Gerard, one of my favorite abstract painters in Asheville, North Carolina. I tried to do like him. It was a disaster. So there you go. I am me. I better like me. You are you. You better like you. Right? I like this one. Number 15. Let me show you the back side. Again, you can start placing bids on these, maybe starting tomorrow, perhaps. They'll be getting to the point that you know what you're bidding on. I like that one. Part of my fun with these cosmic things, it's layers and layers and layers, by the way. I spent way more time than I expected to. And here's some of that dimensional transparent paint that I mentioned a while ago. That's this stuff that I plan to do on the other side. It's 3 things or 4 things that are happening here. Number 1, complete abstract marks. Number 2, obviously, spatters, layers and layers of spattering. And then number 3, geometric, 90-degree, architectural, if you will, structures superimposed. So so far I'm calling it ordered cosmos. Looks like a cosmic outer space picture, but it's got these architectural structures. So until I come up with a better title, I'm calling them ordered cosmos. All right, back to this side. It is fun, by the way, after having worked on the last painting, which was all warm, right? The last painting was all warm. Now I'm back to cool. It's like a vacation for my brain. It's like, all right, fun, cool colors. That is fun, and that's very intentional. I'm the last time I counted, I was pretty evenly divided between warm abstract paintings and cool abstract paintings. Maybe slightly tilted in favor of the warm, because I think, partly because I think, hang on. I'm debating doing some pale blue with a spackling knife. I did spackling knife in the first white layer. Nah, don't. As you can perhaps see, essentially always paint with two brushes, of course, except when I'm doing portraits the size of a quarter, right? I always paint with two hands, and I usually have two very different shaped brushes in my hands, like I do here. This is a round. I probably use a round less than any other shape. Round brushes don't give you variety. I feel like it's the same, basically the same profile, no matter which way you turn the brush. So that's why it tends not to be my favorite. I use filberts way more than anything else. When I'm doing watercolors, paintings, for some reason, I am addicted to flats. I need something whiter. I like that blue, but I want something lighter blue. There we go. Here's another truism, practice of painting. This doesn't go under elements of design or principles of design. It goes under practice of painting. A habit, for some reason, I don't even know why this is exactly. I have guesses, but human beings, get a kick out of seeing thick paint. People like impasto. They do. I don't know why, but if you want to make a painting that people like, do some impasto on it. Now this is a little bit unusual impasto. Hello, Uo. Yes. You may place a bid for outside the United States. Now, depending on where you live, we would need to dialogue a little bit ahead of time about shipping cost. But I'm open to that. I've done that before. A couple years ago, I sent a painting to Norway. That was a first. Oh, I was going to say that my impastoing, my doing impasto right now is unusual, because usually impasto is reserved for the absolute last layer of the painting. But that's if you're painting all in, say, oils. But I can actually do impasto in acrylic, let it dry, and then do oil glazes, first of all, on top of this, and then proceed to do oil on top. So it's a little bit unusual. Usually impasto is reserved for the very, very end of the painting process. And here I am, I'm only 80% done with these paintings. I have a couple, 2 or 3 layers, maybe 4 left to go. So a little bit unusual to be doing impasto, fat, thick painting, for obvious reasons, because it dries slowly. But that doesn't count if you're in acrylics. Everything dries in acrylics. Everything dries fast in acrylics. Another way to think about abstract painting is it's all principle, no picture, right? And as with all paintings, representational or abstract, either one, we're trying to create something that will be, quote unquote, fun to look at. Moreover, even more than that, we're trying to create something that will be fun to look at for hundreds of years. Do you ever think about that, right? How long should your painting last? Well, your painting should last way beyond you, no matter how young you are. You know, my paintings, I expect them to be around in 500 years if the planet's still whole, which I expect it to be, by the way. But, okay, let me change colors here. Let me change to a considerably darker blue than what I've been doing. So we're trying to create something that's fun to look at. My definition of art, I talked about this quite a bit yesterday, my definition of art, which puts me, you know, at odds with the Academy. Most,
Where are you going? Upstairs.
you know, my art professors would roll over in their graves if they heard me try to do something as audacious, bodacious as define art. But I do, because I'm bodacious, that's all there is to it. Art is stuff that's made to look at. I talked about this quite a bit yesterday. It's stuff that's made to look at without any auxiliary purpose. So people can't say, oh, traffic lights, they're made to look at. Clothes, they're made to look at. No, 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 no. All auxiliary purpose. Art is just stuff that's made to look at. There may be other differentiators, but that's as far as I want to go with it right now. Stuff that's made to look at. All right, and then I can go one step further and say art, good art, is stuff that's made to look at, that people actually like looking at. So I usually brace yourself for disappointment. Is that a syllogism, or I'm not sure what, there's a name for that kind of logic, you know, the disappointing, like, oh, that's what you were going to say. Because I don't really answer the question. First of all, I'm keenly aware of the fact that I'm not answering the question, okay? It's just my cuteness of having fun at your expense. Art is stuff that's made to look at. Good art is stuff that's made to look at that people like looking at. Yes, I'm aware that I haven't answered the question. That's all right. Let's move on. So what is it that makes something fun to look at? Well, that is the $64,000 question, as they say. If we knew the answer to that question, if I really, really knew the answer to that question, I would be Rembrandt. I would be Richard Schmid. I would be John Singer Sargent. I would be the greatest artist in history. They knew something about what is it people like looking at. But let's go back for a minute. I have some guesses, as you probably guessed. Good art is stuff that people like looking at. And what is it that people like looking at? Well, that is the big question. The academic answer is, in hindsight, we can see that all art that people like looking at, most art that people like looking at, tends to have these certain characteristics about it. And the characteristics have come to be known as the elements and principles of design. Now, please understand, the elements and principles of design were discovered post priori. They were not developed a priori. What I mean by that is a bunch of philosophers, Greek, we'd have to go back to the Greeks, wouldn't we? A bunch of philosophers did not sit down in the rotunda in Greece one day and say, hey, what do you say we invent the principles of design? Yeah, that's a great idea. So they sat around and stroked their beards and togas and invented the principle. No, of course it didn't go like that. Of course not. The principles and elements of design are post-priority. That is to say, they came after. So what actually happened, and I'm asking you to enter into a sort of a free-form thought experiment. I don't know when this happened. That's ridiculous. It happened all through history. Some going all the way back to the, cave paintings of Lascaux, France, say, for instance, the most famous cave paintings in the world. Going all the way back, going back to the Egyptian art, all the way back, and all the way forward up to today. Joe, let's call him Joe. Joe doesn't know what he's doing. He's just messing around with pigments and charcoal and who knows what, right? And he leaves a bunch of marks on a cave wall or on a pyramid wall or on a canvas. And lo and behold, after Joe puts the marks, paints on a canvas, let's say, people, they call their neighbors, and the neighbors call their neighbors, and everybody goes, wow, I like looking at that. You with me? This imaginary moments in history. After a while, the Greek philosopher gang, they begin to notice that let's just say the paintings that people enjoy looking at all seem to share certain characteristics. And they come up with things like tension and release, balance, surprise, rhythm, pattern, unity, I'm looking over here, movement, emphasis, contrast, all right? It turns out that a lot of the paintings that all human beings seem to enjoy looking at have a number of shared characteristics. Hang on just a second, let me think, let me paint for a minute. Bluish green up there. And those, as the scientific community world develops, more and more and more. So these principles, these elements of design and principles of design coalesce, so that then when you take 10th grade art in Hoositville, Virginia, your art teacher, 10th grade art teacher says, boys and girls, here are the elements of design. Got it? So it's really a mystery. It really is a mystery. The elements of design are simply our way of trying to explain to screw the inscrutable, to explain the inexplicable. I haven't really said much, have I? Did all that talking to say nothing. It was quite a skill. I have it in buckets. You're welcome. All right. Number 16. Now leave me alone. I'm trying to paint here. Is anybody saying anything? I really answered. What is a good oil? Stein, Oldenhof. What is a good oil paint? I'll answer that in a section. Yes, Uo. I'm not sure if I'm saying your name right. Could artificial intelligence do good? Oh, let me show you the back first. Could artificial intelligence do good painting? So here's number 16. Again, some random and some structure. That's number 16. Could artificial intelligence do good paintings? My answer is yes, actually. Surprising to what most people would think. An artist like me would say, oh no, a machine can't do what I can do. But my answer is no. In fact, when somebody gets serious about developing such a thing, I hope they contact me to help them. Because I think I actually I have a conscious awareness of many, that's what you're hearing from me. I have a conscious, not a subconscious intuition. By the way, many artists are fantastic artists, but they can't describe what they're doing. And those people are generally not good teachers, even though many of them do try to teach. Anyway, I think I could program, I can't do the computer part, but I think I could train a computer how to do a good painting. Because I have at least to some degree, a conscious awareness, not an unconscious, but a very conscious awareness of what it is that makes a good painting. Interesting. Then we're in trouble, aren't we? So can computers start doing? My answer is yes. Computers are going to start doing paintings better than many human beings. Better than all human beings? No, I don't think so, because there is, in my opinion, there is something transcendent and you could say magical, mystical, spiritual about beauty that goes beyond the math. But it doesn't exclude the math. See, so I think I could help a computer do a good painting up to a point. Up to a point. After that point, yeah, something magic, something transcendent needs to kick in. Otherwise, it's just one more good painting. And by the way, there's so many good paintings in the world, it's really hard to bust out of the crowd. Very hard. Picasso did thousands of artwork. Some of you know I'm not a huge Picasso fan, but many of you are, so I'll use him as, he did thousands and thousands of works of art. I'm being very arbitrary and loose here, but I'm going to guess that Rembrandt probably did 50, 20, 30, 40, 50 great works of art. Everything else was just like, yep, there's another Rembrandt. I really mean that. And I've already mentioned, I think Guernica almost ruined him as an artist because he did a piece of art that went beyond him, beyond the math, beyond the skill, beyond the aesthetics, beyond the rules, and nearly ruined him because he never achieved that level again. So anyway, that's a little, what's a reality check for us artists. I've done 10,000 pieces of art in my lifetime. When people say, how many paintings have you done? I tried to calculate one time and I quit after I said, yeah, probably 10,000. Nice round number, the proverbial 10,000 if you're a Malcolm Gladwell fan, the proverbial 10,000. Of those, you know, how many are worthy to last 1,000 years? My answer is, I hope a dozen. So there is something mystical, magical, transcendent, and I know that when I use this word, I'm triggering some of you people. I'm sorry about that, but you need to get over being triggered so easily. I could teach a computer to do beautiful paintings by the numbers, so to speak, and it would be better than most amateur painters could do. I do believe that. Maybe better than I could do, maybe. I'm not being that arrogant. But could they do, you know, the 1 out of 1,000,000 transcendent pieces? My answer is, nah, I don't think so. No, because it goes way beyond the numbers. All right. Boy, that was a tangent, wasn't it? You just never know where I'm going to start blathering about next. I'm mixing up some red over here, by the way. I don't like that red. Forgive me just a second. I have some other acrylics stashed in here somewhere. Let me see if I like this. See if I like this tube of red. Matisse Red Light. By the way, I am not at all. I like Matisse and I like the Matisse people, but I'm not a big fan at all, and neither should you be. I'm not a big fan of proprietary color names. That is to say, There actually is a color called red light, but this is not that. It's usually student grade paints that are given cutesy, clever names, but not always. Many, like Matisse is a professional line of paint, but we artists don't know what color this is, except it has a pigment red 254. So I would pick up my phone. I won't do it right now, but to find out what color this actually is, I would have to get on the Matisse website or just pick up my phone, pick up my phone, as the case may be, pick up my phone and do a search, Google search for pigment, PR, or pigment red 254, because otherwise I don't know what color I'm in. And it doesn't matter, I'm painting by eyeball, I'm painting by eye, not by, pigment number. But if you can train yourself little by little, I don't recommend making a great big academic study of it, but just begin to learn what the various pigments are. It really does help you pick your colors more quickly. For instance, ultramarine is always supposed to be ultramarine. Paint company can't mix up a color that's made of something else and call it ultramarine. It has to be made out of lapis lazuli. Is that what that is? Let's see, I'm not an expert, but I know what ultramarine is. I know what color it is. But then if they call it sky blue, like, not a big fan of that kind of thing. And again, it's usually, kiddie paints do that all the time, of course, but even so, obviously, so do some of the professional. I don't think they should call it red light. They should call it, if it's naphthol, if it's cadmium. I'm assuming it can't be cadmium because cadmium is one of those possibly toxic colors. Causes cancer in rats in California. Thankfully, I'm not a rat in California, so how much danger to me is highly questionable. All right, as you see here, I'm doing a strong secondary color. Yeah, I'm gonna do a little more, some green, and then be done with number 16, right? It's kind of a aqua green, turquoise-ish green. All right, good enough. At the moment, I'm not that crazy about this one, but it has a couple layers to go, so I'm not too worried about it. Here's some. That actually made that better. There were some unpleasant marks up there, and I just helped cover them a little bit. Yeah, that actually did help. It's surprising. Since I'm already in trouble philosophically by talking about transcendent, magical mystery, transcendent spiritual realities, heck, why not jump further into trouble? Here's number 17. Hang on. I'll talk about my trouble in a minute. Lots of work to go there. Here's the back side of 17. Whoop, 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 whoop. Hang on. I like that one. It's got some messiness here that I need to clean up. Let me show you, by the way, how I'll probably clean that stuff up. I will pick up a straight razor. Here it is. And I'll start by scraping off the barnacles, stuff that it's not supposed to be there. And then I'll just, if I need to repaint something there, I'll do that. So I'll do some of that kind of stuff, because stacking up 20 paintings against each other, as you can imagine, it's a little bit hazardous, has caused some of that stuff. But I'll fix it all up before I finish the painting. All right, here's, again, number 17. All right, I was going to say I'm going to get into more trouble by talking about beauty. Great debate rages. To say it rages is almost an overstating the case, because the notion of beauty has been so out of vogue. That is to say, the dominating culture in the art world for over 100 years now has vehemently eschewed the notion of beauty. The idea that there could even be such a thing as beauty has been, frankly, violently repudiated, denied, fought against, and so forth. It's no surprise to you regulars. I'm likely to take exception to that. By the way, some of you, what makes this guy so dang arrogant? Well, I hope I'm not really arrogant, but because you hear me often going against the prevailing art establishment. And that's a good question. Where do I get off? Being the world expert on everything. Well, I'm not the world expert on everything. For what it's worth, I'll tell you, and I might be wrong about this, of course. Many people are wrong about their true essence, but I view myself very much as a philosopher who paints, not a painter who philosophizes. Now, you guys know me as a painter. That's the only reason you know, this is an art channel, Dan the Art Man. So to you, I'm an artist. But I have a whole laundry list of career paths that led me up to this point, and educational paths and so forth. Like I said, I'm a amateur. That means I don't have the pressure of being certified or taking tests. I'm an amateur historian, an amateur philosopher, and by the way, amateur doesn't mean stupid or ignorant, or the Greek word means lover, ama. My chérie, amor, love. To be an amateur means to be a lover. So I'm a lover of history. And again, believe me, I know enough about all these subjects to know that every, so to speak, every philosophy professor at Berkeley would be pulling their hair out and screaming at me for the chutzpah I would have for claiming to be a philosopher. Well, that's their problem. That's because they subscribe to a very particular worldview that makes the notion of being a philosopher. Anyway, never mind. So I make a lot of these bold assertions, believe it or not out of ignorance, but out of a fair degree of understanding. So my disagreeing with, say, the philosophy department at Berkeley, it's not because I'm not aware of what they think. Anyway, it's because I'm an amateur historian and philosopher. So I guess that's all I'm going to say about that. Is there such a thing as beauty? And I've been on both sides of this. I've gone back and forth over the decades. So I haven't been locked in. I've gone back and forth. And where I'm at on the subject right now is that, yes, I'm inclined to think that there actually is such a thing as objective beauty, that it's a real thing, that it's an objective thing that stands outside my personal subjective experience. And again, please understand that I understand that I'm going against the prevailing. By the way, here's for what it's worth. You hear that kind of thing from me quite a bit. You probably get sick of it. Maybe that's why not many people watch my videos. It's very possible that they don't like me going against the grain. There is, in all of human interchange, in all of human, what's the good old word? There is in all of human intercourse, all of human discussion in all of human society, has always been and always will be the predominant opinion, and I'm going to use an old philosophical in the sense of man wearing robe, wearing sandals, walking around the country with one finger in the air. Okay, that kind of philosopher. It is what many of the old philosophers called the broad path. One of the things I think I know about human nature is there is always, no matter what topic, pick any topic in the world and parachute down into human society, any culture, any time, on any topic, there will always be the dominant view and the, for want of a better term, subdominant view. Any topic, any society, and you will find most people think this. And again, that's what some philosophers and teachers have called the broad path, as opposed to the narrow way. And you can tell by my talk up until now that I'm a pretty big believer in the narrow way on almost every subject. Let me give you and again, I could be wrong about this, of course. Stupid is the person who thinks they're right about everything. That's just inexcusable. Anybody who thinks they're right about everything is an idiot. You can mark it down. I'd say that, by the way, that is one of the characteristics of the broad path. Pick any topic in history, drop yourself down into any place on the planet where there's human interchange, and you'll find most people think this, and not very many think that. And the people who belong to the most are the broad path, the dominant culture, and those people, by and large, are convinced they're right, because they look around at the other 70, 80, 90%, not just by numbers, but all the smart people believe like them. So that convinces them that they of course are correct. That's sort of a description of the dominator class. And I'm convinced that nearly always the dominator class is wrong, for the very reason that it's an what's the word? Most people subscribe to the dominator position because it is the dominator position. There's never been a time in American history where this is more obvious. That the media, the universities, the celebrities, all the smart-ass people that you know in your society, all pretty much have the same opinion about a lot of things. And whereas that convinces most people that that is the correct position, I am one of those weirdos that convinces me that actually they're almost always the wrong position. The dominator position is almost always wrong. I'll use a classic example in America. In the South in America, before the Civil War, in the 1830s, 40s, 50s, the dominator position was that slavery was a good, holy and righteous and natural and good institution, right? Why did they believe that? Because the individuals went deep into study or deep into self-analysis and so on and so forth, introspection. The answer is no. In fact, quite to the contrary. That great majority of Southerners believed it because the great majority of Southerners believed it. So in my book, if you want to be found on the wrong side of history, most of the time you should side with not just the majority. Remember, most of the human beings in Rome were slaves. There were more slaves in Rome than there were free people. But the slaves were not the dominator culture. So there's a difference between majority and dominator culture. Okay, the dominator culture is the smart-ass culture. They're the people that get to treat the other members of society with contempt because they are the manifestly the smartest people. So there you go. I'm sorry, I keep on taking tangents. I started out talking about beauty and ended up talking about smart-ass dominator culture. But for what it's worth, maybe somebody needed to hear that today. If you want to be found on the wrong side of history, side with the smartasses in every culture. And again, I'm going to trigger some of you out the wazoo now, because I'm going to say the J word, Jesus. Jesus said, there's a broad path and there's a narrow path. What he meant was there's a whole bunch of people that go this way and not very many people go that way. In the end, it'll be the minority who went against the current who would be found to be in the right. There you go. So your sermon of the day. You didn't have to put any money in the offering. Hello, gang. Son, let me read some of your chats here. Hello, Medina. Terrence, somebody went to Berkeley. I love that. Is that Uo Uo? That's good. Uo Uo, I don't know who you are, but I like the way you talk. By the way, the dominator, smart-ass dominator segment of society is very, very, very fluid. That's a mistake that a lot of people make. It's very fluid, changes by time, location, and so on and so forth. So the person who is part of the oppressed subculture in one moment can be part of the dominator culture in the next. Marx made that mistake. Marx recognized this reality and he said, yeah, all rich people are part of the dominator class. Well, he was wrong, just dead wrong. And I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but yeah, I'm a little bit of an expert on Karl Marx, and I have read Das Kapital and his biography, and he's a classic example. The reason Marxism is popular is because I'll be, so to speak, funny to make the point. God said, "Thou shalt not covet." Now, the reason God tells us not to do stuff, and I'm not asking here that you guys believe there is a God or anything like that. I'm just using shorthand. You still recognize the concept, whether you believe in God or not. The reason a God would tell us not to do something is, like if God had said, "Thou shalt not eat Brussels sprouts." Well, first of all, he would never say that, right? Because too many of the people on the planet don't want to eat, like me, don't want to eat Brussels sprouts. My apologies to those of you who love them. The example still stands. The God doesn't have to tell us to do things we don't want to do. He has to tell us to do things we do, not to do things we do want to do, because ostensibly, supposedly, he knows what's good for us, right? He's not saying those things to be mean, is the theory. You understand that. You don't have to be a theist to understand my language. So relax. I'm not trying to convert you. You can convert yourself if you want to, but that's not my goal. I'm just talking. So the God said, don't covet, because coveting is not a good thing. And God the only 10 commandments are all things that without them we do want to do. I do want to sleep with my neighbor's wife, so to speak, quote unquote. Get it? I'm being flippant and silly, blunt, whichever one of those words you want to use. Very silly, because I don't want to sleep. Anyway, so God said, don't covet, because it doesn't lead to a flourishing life. And Karl Marx came along and said, to hell with that. Covet, 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 covet. And in so doing, he's tapping into an impulse that already exists, already resides deep inside every human breast. I want to covet, doggone it. If somebody has something that I want and I don't have it and they have it, the dark, broken side of me, I recognize it, of course, as dark and broken, and my spiritual upbringing helped me to recognize, we have a name for people who don't learn these lessons. They're called inmates. For the most part, they're called prisoner number 254631 down at the local state penitentiary, okay? People who don't learn these lessons. So Marx came along and said, no, 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 that God thing is for the birds. You should covet. That is the essence of socialism. Covet and hate. Now, I know some of you, how did I get on this? Help me, where's my off-ramp? Oh, I was talking about the dominator. I was talking about the dominator, this concept of the dominator culture, in my opinion, is always wrong. And then I mentioned how Marx got it so wrong when he thought the dominator culture equaled the wealthy capitalist, the people who owned the factory. There were 4 people who lived in London, England, at the same time that Karl Marx lived there. If you have never read the biography of Karl Marx, and if you think you're enamored by socialism, you should really, first of all, read Das Kapital. I dare you. Don't go to Columbia University and sit in on their Das Kapital class, because the man who teaches that class is lost his mind out of love for Karl Marx. And you don't want to take a class from somebody who's lost their mind. Anyway, there were 4 men that I know, not personally, 4 men who lived in Marx's London. Well, 3 other men. Karl Marx, William Booth, who saw the same problem that Karl Marx, saw the same rigors of the Industrial Revolution that was decimating the lower class. Pulled them in off the farm, put them in squalid living conditions, made them work in unsafe factories, all the stuff that Marx saw and rightfully hated. Right? He was so far so good. He's on the right path. William Booth saw the same exact problem and founded what came to be known as the Salvation Army. If you live in England or the United States, I imagine that the Salvation Army is still, if you live in a sizable city, you still have a Salvation Army in your town. And they have done more good for more people. Thousands, tens, hundreds of thousands of people in poverty they have helped and served over the century and a half. Another man lived in, by the way, I'm unabashedly giving you a what's wrong with Marx lecture right now, okay? So if you're going to be hating and triggered, that's fair warning, okay? Consider yourself warned. This is a what's wrong with Karl Marx lecture. At the same time, same city, same sensitivities as Karl Marx, was a man who was also a writer, like Karl Marx. The one skill Marx had was writing. He was a reprehensible individual on almost every scale. His parents disowned him. He disowned them first. It just, those who knew him best hated him worst. There was another man across town, lived contemporary, same time, and very much saw the same heartbreaking conditions of the poor, especially the poor children. He picked up his pen that was mightier than the sword and simply wrote stories. And he is, to this day, credited with significantly, if not totally, but significantly overturning the plight of the poor, especially the poor children in London in the 1840s and 50s. by writing things like David Copperfield, Great Expectations, and A Christmas Carol. Scrooge. Scrooge. His name was Charles Dickens. There's another man. Some of you, because of your issues, will be less favorable about this one, but this man also had the gift of letters. He stood up every Sunday morning in front of, I believe it was 4,000 or 5,000 people, and preached what he believed to be the good news of Jesus. Charles Haddon Spurgeon and led a church and led a movement that was instrumental in delivering thousands, tens of thousands, out of soul-crushing poverty. Karl Marx, on the other hand, the people who followed his writings are responsible for roughly 100 million dead bodies over the next 100 years. If you took all the victims of socialism and put them in a pile, the pile could be visible from the moon. That's what Karl Marx did. Because Karl Marx said, to hell with that God stuff. God says, don't covet. I say, do covet. And that's the essence of socialism. I know some of you are just screaming and covering your ears. Sorry. That is the essence of socialism. Thou shalt hate people who have more than you do. I already told you that as an artist, when I look at somebody who's better than me, like Richard Schmid, I just picked up his book a little while ago and showed it to you. It puts fire in my bones. Not the fire of envy, the fire of fired up. he knows something I don't know, I want to get good. That's the opposite of envy. And that's a better model. What do you do with rich people? Say, are they evil? Some of them are, of course. Some of everything is evil, right? Some of everybody is evil. Some preachers are evil, blah, blah, blah. You know that. They're the most famous ones, right? Some priests, Catholic priests, are evil. Does that mean they all are? It's just, of course not. All right, I've had fun painting while I'm lecturing. I wonder how many poor people I've sent screaming. Bless your hearts. Let's see what people are saying down here. Hello, Uo. Thanks for speaking up. Good to have you here. I don't know if you're still with us or not. Religion is bad. It's, in fact, I believe, the worst evil on the planet. But people who are not people of faith, generally speaking, don't understand faith, and they call it religion, and they misapprehend it usually to a considerable degree. I'm not talking about you, Uol. I'm talking about people in general. The evil of religion is self-righteous. Even a fear of the great big scary God in the sky who will smote them if they step out of line. That's all a religious impulse. And I'm sure you understand, anybody who wants to can understand that is not the spiritual impulse. Religion has done a lot to turn people away from truth and reality and God. But you would expect somebody who believes in God to say such things, so there you go. If you want to believe in God, there's plenty of evidence. If you want to disbelieve in God, there's plenty of evidence. You go either way. It doesn't come down to thinky. It ultimately comes down to choicey. Oh, I forgot to show you the back of this, didn't I? This is painting number 19, so we're coming down the home stretch. Painting orange, no, even darker orange, redder orange here. By this time, if you've been watching me at all, you almost know what I'm going to do, don't you? I'm doing a lot of, and I confess that this is indeed a Dan Nelsonism. I'm doing a lot of painting a lighter, brighter color of what's already there, right? Like there's kind of a dirty orange over here, and I'm putting a cleaner, brighter orange on top of it. But the dirty orange bits still peek around either side of that stroke. Now, if I do too much of that, if it just becomes a formula, then it's likely that my paintings will suffer. So I have to always I have a tension inside me between process formula and surprise. You know, try something new. And generally, that's the path to good painting or good art, is tension between the tried and true path and a jumping off the path, an adventure. Try something new. Unfortunately, of course, none of these paintings are yet in their finished state. They all have one more layer of acrylics, I think, and then glaze in oil, then darks in oil, and lights in oil. So how many layers is that? Acrylic, oil, oil, oil. At least 4 more layers. Now each layer gets, of course, generally speaking, is less, covers up fewer inches than the layer before it. So it's not like I'm going to plaster. No, 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 no. These paintings are, what you see here, 80% of this will still, or 90, will still be clearly manifest in the final painting, even though it has 4 more layers to go. I'll try to remember to show you the back of this panel because I forgot to do that. Picking up some red now, bright red, intense red, red. Again, same trick, same exact trick, right? You see there's this dark red stuff here, which I like very much. But now there's dark red with light red on top of it. There's a subtlety there, and our eyes just get a kick out of the interplay between those two. Now what would happen, say, if I took like a chartreuse green and did it on top of that dark red? What effect would I get? Well, we actually have a name for the effect. In that case, that's a bad example. It would be vibration. It would brrr, those 2 intense complementary colors on top of each other, next to each other. We tend to get a vibrating effect, which is generally experienced as an unpleasant effect, generally. Although, that, of course, every rule can be broken. You just have to know when and why and how and where to break it. And then usually it's because there's a countervening rule, right? Every rule can be broken, but usually there's a reason for breaking it. There's another rule that overrules the first rule, and that's when you break one of the rules of painting, because they do often clash. I'm gonna call that done. That layer is done. All right, let me show you the back. So this is number 19. And these are all posted, by the way, on the community page of my YouTube channel. You can see a still image of all these, so you can look at them more carefully if you want to. All right, but there's what I'm calling the main side. Just one more, and then I'll be off. I don't know if I'll be broadcasting again later today. I have an online painter's critique that I have to, it's not open to everybody. It's a local organization here in North Carolina. You have to be a member of the group, but I'm for the last 6 months I've been leading a online painter's critique. Perhaps I might start doing this in the future. I'm learning the formula, the ropes. I'm getting it down. People email me their painting, and if it's an oil or acrylic painting, then I tweak and try to get the image as close to their painting as I can, as I can guess. And I print it out on canvas, on my color printer. If it's watercolor, I print it out on watercolor paper. If it's pastel, I print it out on, you know, understand, I print out an image of their painting, picture of their painting. And then during the critique, I give them my 2 cents worth, my opinions, my thoughts about their painting, and very gentle. And I just started with purple simply because I had those brushes ready to go. It's not normal to start out in purple. I paint on the print. Does that make sense? And people do seem to be enjoying it quite a bit. Hang on a second. I don't think I like that color. I tell the kids it's okay if they make noise as long as it's happy noise. And I guess that's a happy noise. Hang on a second, I have to mix up a pretty green color over here. Not crazy about that color. Let's add quite a bit of blue to that. I don't think I need to take it off. I just didn't want to do much more of that color. I often say that you don't judge an unfinished painting the same way you judge a finished one. And it's really good to remember that with any painting, representational or abstract. The reason it needs to be said is we tend, often I think a lot of us tend to be hard on ourselves, and we'll look at our unfinished painting and kind of turn up our nose and go, ew, I don't like it. Well, it may be that it's just not finished yet. Like, that's kind of a little bit the way I feel here, but I'm not turning up my nose because I know this principle fairly well. As I like to say, it ain't done until it's done. And until it's done, it ain't done. Sorry for the silly, but that really kind of communicates the reality. So don't get grumpy at a painting. Keep working. Now, of course, you all know there's always a great danger in overworking, of course. So we do have that tension inside us. But hey, if a painting's bad, then clearly it's not done. Let me, do I have any brushes with white? I do not. I've got a lot of brushes to clean when I finish this session. Lots of brushes to clean. All right, this is pure white. I haven't done much pure white in this layer, this series at all. Whoa. Ooh, ooh. I'm just reading your comments now. Bless you, my sister. I like your comments very much. Good. Feel free to drop me, anybody. I was thinking a little audio, you know? Feel free to drop me a personal line if you want more thoughts or prayers. My wife and I are pretty comfortable praying for people and see some great stuff happen when we do. We have the gift of making people cry. Don't you wish you had that gift? Crying not out of sorrow but out of joy. Happened just last week. The man who came to sell us our latest, greatest internet connection, which we did end up buying from, but he limped terribly from his truck to our front door. I said, "Man, you're in pain. Can we pray for you?" He said, "Sure." Of course, before it was over, he did get some improvement. I wish I could say, I would like to say he was completely healed, but he wasn't. But he got definitely improvement, and he was deeply touched in a very positive way. He said, "I'm sorry, I'm crying." I said, "That's all right, we have that gift. We're good at making people cry out of sheer joy, out of love. People feel loved, not by us and by the God that might exist." Of course, you understand. I think he does, but again, I'm not trying to be evangelistic here. I'm just trying to be authentic. That's all I have to say about that. It's like, I don't know. Let me do some. I'm not sure about, again, I'm not sure about this one, but let me again. But it's not done, so I don't judge it the way I judge a finished painting. Don't judge a finished painting till it's finished. And there could be still some significant changes. On most of these, there's not going to be huge changes between its current state and its finished state. But on some, like this one here, might be a problem child, a little bit, maybe. First of all, it's hard for me to judge. I've got my nose right in it, so to speak. So I'm sort of, that's one of the benefits of doing a whole series of paintings at one time. By the time I come back to this one, I'll have done 19 other paintings, and I'll be able to see this with new eyes, and then I'll have a better evaluation, a better sense of whether it's a good painting or not, and where to go with it. I will say this, I see this kind of thing a lot when I'm judging paintings and when I'm critiquing paintings. We all have had what I like to call problem children, right? We've all had paintings that aren't going well, and we don't know what to do with them. I do have a sort of a one-size-fits-all recommendation for when you have a painting that's not working. Here's the normal impulse that I have done and have seen others do, and it's not a good impulse. Let me suggest something better. Here's the normal impulse. You've got a painting that just, you don't know what's wrong with it, but and I'm talking about one maybe that, you know, it's been hanging around, leaning against the wall of your studio. I'm not talking about a painting you did today. I'm talking about a problem child that's been hanging around for a while, and you've tried a little this, a little that, a little this, and a little that. Nothing seems to work. It's still not working. Well, that is the problem. When you have a problem painting, the painter, most painters tend to try a little of this and a little of that. And usually those little bits that you try don't do the job. Instead of doing little things, get violent with it. Part of my thinking is, what have you got to lose, right? If the painting's not working, especially if it's on the, you know, on the about to get thrown out in the trash kind of pile, before you do that, do something bold with it. Pick up a big brush, do some strong stuff. Don't piddle. That's a word. If you got a painting that's not working, stop piddling. Stop piddling and pick it up and do some strong changes to it. I have one story, I love telling this. I had that exact kind of painting several years ago. It was leaning up literally leaning against the wall in my studio for 3 or 4 years, I think. And every once in a while, and it had some nice things about it, you know, so I hated to give up. I would pick it up and do something. It still wasn't a home run. Still had some nice things, but I couldn't tell what was wrong with it. Finally, after 3 or 4 years, I said, okay, that's it. Execution day. And in those days, I was doing quite a bit of, I would take paintings, failures, out to the garage and literally sand them off with a belt sander. That's a long story, but I don't do that much anymore, but it did at the time. And so I took this one out with a stack of others, said, all right, bye-bye painting. It's been nice. And I started sanding it with a belt sander. Okay, it goes like this, you know. Anyway, I had it in front of me, and I started going, wait a minute. The painting came to life. It's only happened to me once. It was hilarious. The magic happened. Whatever was wrong with it, I fixed it with a belt sander. I brought it back in my studio, did 10 minutes of touch-up, and it's still one of my favorite paintings. It's not a big thing, a little thing like this. Basically a house. I'm trying to remember if I can tell you the name of it. Pamlico House. So if you go to my Fine Art America, Dan Nelson Fine Art America, and do a search for Pamlico House, you will see the painting. They got so close to being destroyed, it was in the garage under a belt sander. I don't recommend that. It happened once, it'll probably never happen again the rest of my life, but that was hilarious. All right, I'm ooh. You'll have to bid on that one. Thank you, my dear. That would be sweet. So come back tomorrow. Or here's, by the way, a little more detail about the bidding. So you just bid by plate. Tell me what painting you're talking about. And of course, you get 2 for the price of 1, whether that's a positive or not. The auction will maybe start. I'll start taking bids tomorrow. I'm thinking Thursday, September 10th, and it'll probably go for about 5 days, so that people have time. And I'll post finished images on YouTube and Facebook so people can see exactly what they're bidding on. And then we'll discuss shipping them to some of you. There may be a surcharge, so to speak, shipping and handling for sending them around the world. All right, thanks for joining me today. I appreciate it. Thanks for listening to all my rants. Hope they were entertaining, if nothing else. By the way, here's the downside of using 2 brushes for every color. Here's how many brushes I have to go clean, but I'm just going to go to the kitchen sink. Generally speaking, you don't wash acrylics down the sink unless you have a garbage disposal, which we do. So just understand that. You don't want to be washing